Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mini Metro. This time we'll be attempting the Sao Paulo achievement, which is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. I almost said that's Grand Prix because I just literally read things as they are, but the achievement in itself is deliver 1,200 passengers in Sao Paulo using only loops. So at first, when I did this the first couple of times, it seemed pretty easy, but then I realized there was actually some consequence to consistently having loops, which was, it was more like trying to figure out which stations should be overlapping and such. And the other thing is that as long as you maintain loops, it's pretty, when you use the tunnels and you have to cross a river, it's always going to be multiples of 2. So it's like when I used the loop here, I pretty much have to use 2 tunnels every time, and every time I stretch a loop to another portion across another portion of the river, I end up using another 2 tunnels. So definitely one of the things to keep in mind when attempting these achievements, to always have 2 tunnels on reserve whenever you're stuck with a situation that you need to cross a river. But if you're good at your management, or you get lucky with your station placement, you might be lucky enough just to extend an already crossed line to stretch. But as some people may already know, other times may not be as lucky. So what I thought to start off with was that I thought I would just establish my loops first, and then once more stations spawn, we would just start micromanaging and readjusting some loops back. So Just now you saw me detach the green loop from the triangle station. That's because I basically thought, well, okay, we've got enough stations and the track is plenty stretched to the left, such that it's best to reduce the amount of time that the train spends at another station, which is easily serviced by another. But then, as you see me reattaching it back, that was more for keeping the distributions of stations fairly even, because as you can see on the green line is from the square, triangle, circle, square, circle, triangle, which in my opinion is a very solid distribution of stations. So it means like the train will just sort of keep going along. It will pick up a few passengers at one station, it will drop off a few, and it will just sort of keep the whole thing going very smoothly. So at the end of the second week, I opted for the tunnels because I still had the 4th line, which was actually not being used. So I figured, well, it's kind of sitting there, and part of it is it's like when I've said before about using resources and basically not wasting resources really. So it's just how can I say this properly? It's like right now we've got a locomotive and a line being used. That's resources not being used that could be used to help alleviate and prevent any future problems. So why would we not use them immediately? So from that logic, I thought, well, I know with this map it's liable for more stations to sort of just go across, and okay, so since I'm doing this post commentary, it seems that I've paused the tracks for a fair bit, so I'll keep on talking, and hopefully my editing efforts have proved me well. That was not quite the right way to say it, but we'll go with that. So yeah, one of the things in terms of personal feedback that I can give to myself is that I could definitely have used the extra locomotive and maybe put down the extra line, but it's like at the time I probably didn't really think of it as necessary, because right now there is really not enough congestion, not enough customers, not enough problems that really necessitated the use of our extra locomotive and our extra line. But as we can see here now, we've got another station that just spawned on another side of the river, so that's where keeping the extra tunnels and the extra line came in handy, so I wouldn't have to think to readjust. Of course, in terms of advice, it's for me, it's still a feel as you go, sort of figure out things as I go, and yeah, not really sticking to hard and fast rules for the most part. So in this case, let's see what they are up for. Yeah, that's right, the carriage. So because it's in terms of the line, Well, for this, the decision was fairly easy, mainly because I've already got 2 tunnels, so that's already like my emergency pair of tunnels. And so I thought a carriage is definitely much more useful, especially for some of the longer lines where sometimes there will be a build-up of commuters at one station. So naturally the carriage went to the orange line, since on the right we can see 2 triangle stations which are linked together. Now that's not really much of a problem, but I have complained before on previous videos about like multiple circle stations being linked together, and I've sort of figured out that one of the better ways to deal with them is to actually use have a train with a carriage, one or more carriages, so that because there's going to be more customers being stacked up, you obviously need more capacity to transport them. So the other thing I'm going to point out now is that if you look at the way I've done my loops, I've sort of like have them sort of overlapping a bit of each other, but no like 2 major like what's the best way to say it? It's like, for example, I haven't looped the blue with the yellow. It's sort of like each loop is only intersecting with one other loop, which is not the case for this orange and blue and green, but it was just sort of, I was thinking of terms of even distribution of the loops, which again is a feel as you go and not something that is set in stone. So that's not quite something I've sort of really ultimately figured out just yet. One of the things I would like to... okay, end of week 5 already, and I'm already halfway through the video. Alright, so I think which one did I opt for this time? The carriage. Okay. I think, again, for the same reasons, more that I've already got 2 spare tunnels for a emergency, I suppose, trip over the river, really? And so the carriage was probably the more obvious choice. So for me, placing the carriage on the yellow line made the sense to me because the yellow line's got a unique station, which is the Pentagon station, which basically means that when the green station drops off Pentagon customers, those Pentagon customers will be stacked up at the triangle, square. Well, I haven't really observed which lines it would be, but definitely there will be customers waiting there, so which will mean more capacity, more customers waiting. So to respond to that, it's natural for a train to have the appropriate capacity to pick up those customers. So we've got another station that just spawned on the bottom left, a diamond station, which is really stretching out my yellow line to a fair amount. And while we're still maintaining the loop, we thought we'd just attach it. Yes, that's right, I thought I would attach it to the square just so that I can keep a fairly even distribution. And to respond to extending the line even longer, that's why I added the second locomotive. You will have noticed earlier that I added another locomotive to the orange line, because that's fairly obvious in the sense that we're getting a bit of congestion up top, so it was only natural to respond to that by putting another train on that. So it's the end of week 6, and I think since I don't have 2 tunnels, maybe... oh, okay. So I'm sort of going without a safety net there, but I think part of it is because I've already got... let me think through this for a bit. Okay, I think it's because of the style of this map, in that there's only really like 3 places where the tracks can extend beyond the rivers. So as such, I only need a maximum of 6 tunnels, or maybe even 4 if I'm lucky enough. So you can see in the bottom left, I needed 2 tunnels to reach across the bottom left section of the river, and then to the top left, where I've got the yellow line stretched out again, and then sort of up in the bottom right, where I've got the orange station stretched out there. So things are definitely getting a little busy on the right, so this is where I'm allocating extra resources. I've been stretching out the blue line a bit more, so naturally I will allocate extra resources to that. Orange line seems to be giving me a fair amount of problems, which is quite interesting, because it's I haven't actually had time or the headspace to actually look at like how many customers have sort of been coming in, but it's like right now I get the impression that most of the stations on the orange line has been spawning a lot of customers. So this is the part I iterated back on earlier about only really needing so many tunnels for now. And I was actually quite surprised to see that I only needed one tunnel to traverse that top left part on the yellow station. So still, general rule of thumb, keep 2 tunnels handy for this challenge / achievement. And so it's okay. So it's nearing the end of week 7. So I think here is yes, I'm in line with my own thinking. So I went for the line this time because basically each of my current lines have been stretched out far enough such that we definitely need industrial line to sort of just help out with moving things around. So you can see me detaching the green line a little back just to make transport a little easier, and then the main idea was to loop the purple line through the remaining stations so that they get a bit more specialized attention, and each of the other lines sort of kind of just takes a break from their other commitments, really. So okay, so it looks like the blue and orange lines are still keeping my trains fairly busy. I'm sort of just wondering how I could have improved on that. In my head, I could see some readjustments, but like at the moment, I don't really have any way to sort of like write on the screen or just trace it. I know there's software out there that, you know, I could just sort of doodle on and it just show how I plan to do things. But for now, I'm until I find a convenient way to go about doing that, I'll just try and commentate everything as it is. So we've got another unique station, the cross station going up there. So naturally, one of the things I would like to do is sort of allocate maybe one more train and one more carriage to the yellow line, and definitely my yellow line's getting stretched out a fair amount, which is certainly a little unnerving, but nevertheless, we're very, very close to our achievement. Just to remind you that we only have to deliver 1,200 passengers, and we're getting pretty close there. So it's sort of like for these last 50 or so customers, we can just rely on a bit of micromanagement to deal with the rest. And naturally, you can see I'm freaking out a little, so I'm choosing to hit the play button, but that was actually before I realized I was so close to actually like achieving the achievement. And certainly we're getting a lot of stress all over the place, and but thankfully we've hit 1,200, so that's left me fairly happy, that's left me fairly content, and I'm just glad that I can devote my time to other achievements. So, and it's the end of week 8, and it's just like, well, fuck all, we'll just do whatever. And I think it's at this stage that I realized I was already at 1,200, so it was like, well, I'll just do fuck all and, you know, let the metro close itself down. Well, really, it's not really our fault, because I feel like there's a stage that, yeah, this is where I hit the fast forward button, and I was just like, fuck this, I got the achievement, gonna leave it at that. So with that, I'm pretty happy with this attempt, despite previous attempts, and yeah, I've got another video, I've got another achievement video coming up, so look forward to that. So with that, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.